be on the board of Sage USA. And so it's a great pleasure in behalf of my board colleagues to welcome you to Chicago's version of Sage and Friends, where we can talk with you and meet you and get to know you and hear your stories and tell you some of our own. My role here is to get you quiet so the real people can talk. And I've been warned that this is not an opportunity for a 50-minute professorial lecture. So I want to do just one more thing, and I want to thank our presenting sponsor, Merrill Lynch, for their support and their continuous involvement in the work of Sage. And thank you very much for being here this evening. There are many others here who have contributed, but rather than read the list, I will just say thank you, each and every one of you. You know who you are, and I know who you are. And I think that our dedication to the aging community in the LGBT space is one of the things that gives us an opportunity to give back to the society that we have been rather fortunate ourselves to have benefited from. And that's not always the case, as we all know. So with that, it's my pleasure to introduce the man who actually is the reason that I joined the Sage Board, because I said I want to work with this man 7 years ago. I heard about him, terrific leader, a man of great probity and personality and purposefulness, Michael Adam, our Executive Director and CEO.
Thank you. Oh, it is really, really wonderful to see so many of you here tonight to support Sage, to celebrate our LGBT elders, and to honor Merrill Lynch for its amazing support, not only for Sage, but for so many causes in our community. I also want to thank not only Chuck, but our Chicago board members, Roy Wesley and Phil Lumpkin, for all of their amazing leadership here. And thank you all for being here. You know, I think it's fair to say in this particular moment in time, it can sometimes feel like our community is under attack. We're living in some pretty challenging times. It can feel that there is a dark cloud hanging over, if not our country, at least our nation's capital, right? That sense of darkness. But here tonight, we are full of light. And I don't just mean the light outside, I mean the light in this room. The light in this room is the antidote for so much of the threatening darkness that we're dealing with in our country's politics right now. Sage exists for our LGBT elders, people who in fact always have found the light through the most difficult of times. People who were the light during decades of oppression and bigotry and discrimination and violence. People who refused to stay in the closet. People who refused to be invisible. And I think it's fair for us to say, and important for us to say, as we stand here together tonight, in these very challenging times, we truly need the light and the wisdom of our LGBT elders in these times. That light and that wisdom will help carry us through. It's also important to say that our elders need us. Too many of us, as we age, are aging alone and in isolation. And when we need care and services, unfortunately, too many of us instead find discrimination and disregard, so much so that we hear over and over again from elders in our community that they feel forced back into the closet in order to protect themselves from discrimination in their later years. And now we have our elders under attack by the Trump administration, which is seeking to remove our elders from federally funded senior services and seeking to authorize and seemingly even encourage religious-based discrimination against our elders and our community as a whole. Sage exists to change all of that. Together, our organization, our partners, all of us, we are building a movement to ensure that the world in which we live in is one in which our elders can not only survive, but thrive. And a movement that ensures that the progress that we have made will not be pushed back. And we are determined to succeed in that effort. Last year, when the Trump administration announced its plan to remove LGBT elders from the federal survey that decides how federal senior services are distributed, we said no. We said we refuse to allow our elders to be made invisible. We fought back, and because we fought back, we won. We forced the Trump administration to work for us. We forced the administration to put our elders back into that key survey. That's the kind of work we need to do together. And we all know those battles are not over. Even as we stand here now, we are facing a new battle around religious discrimination against our community and against our elders. Earlier this week, I think we all know, the Supreme Court issued a decision that recognized the right of a Colorado baker to refuse to provide a wedding cake to a gay couple. That was a narrow decision in many ways. Some people think, well, is it such a big deal? It's about a wedding cake. It's about so much more than a wedding cake. It is about so much more. And really that battle has just begun. We again have an administration in Washington which has launched a so-called religious conscience division inside the Department of Health and Human Services and given them the mandate of creating rules that would authorize religious discrimination against LGBT people in healthcare and services. If those kinds of rules advance, we are in for some very dangerous moments, and that is especially true for our elders, because 85% of elder care providers, long-term care providers in this country are religiously affiliated. 85%. We cannot live in a country where any institution, any individual can discriminate against our elders in our community based on personal religious beliefs. That is why 2 weeks ago, SAGE launched a campaign called Care Can't Wait. It's a national campaign that asks people to enlist to oppose these measures and gives people ways to do that. I'm so pleased to say that in the first 2 weeks of that campaign alone, more than 14,000 people have signed up to participate. That includes more than 600 right here in Chicago. This is the work that we're doing together. And as much as we have battles that we have to fight, there is also so much positive that we can do and are doing here at the community level. For example, we know that we need to work with our elder care providers in all of our communities across the country. That's why 2 years ago, SAGE launched a national training program to give our care providers the tools and information they need to work respectfully with our elders. In just 2 years, we have trained more than 33,000 care providers across this country. That includes more than 900 here in the Chicago area. And what that means is that thousands and thousands of LGBT elders will receive better care because the people that are caring for them have been given the training and information they need. SAGE is also working here in Chicago to end isolation among our LGBT elders. That's why we have launched programs like Sage Table and our new mentoring initiative that is designed to bring people of all ages in our communities together. That's important for all of us. We can all learn and benefit from each other. It's especially important for older members of our community so that we do not age alone. And there are so many other issues we need to work on together. We need to work on housing together. Chicago has been such a leader on LGBT-friendly elder housing, and we want to congratulate Center on Halstead and the Heartland Alliance for the amazing town hall apartments and the extraordinary contributions of all the services that are provided. I was speaking earlier tonight with Britta Larson, who many of you know from Center on Halstead. Program that SAGE is so proud to be affiliated with, and Britta was explaining that recently they opened up their waiting list for town hall apartments briefly, and more than 200 elders lined up starting at 3 o'clock in the morning. The reason for that? The reason for that, because it's very hard to find affordable housing, and because studies show that 48% of LGBT elders, when we apply for senior housing, are subjected to discrimination. 48%. So we need to build more housing like town hall apartments, and we also have to remember most of us will grow old living in the very same places that our fellow Americans live who are not LGBT. That is why it's very important that SAGE is expanding its training here in Chicago to encompass senior housing providers to make sure that they too are doing a good job with our community members. This is the kind of work that we need to do together. Combining this kind of path-breaking local community work with our national advocacy work and with our national training programs, when you bring all of that together, we do truly start to create the world that we all want to live in, that we all want to grow old together in. So I think it's fair to say in closing that this work, this is our responsibility to ourselves and to each other. We owe a debt of gratitude to our elder pioneers who have come before us, who have brought us so much light. It is our time. It is our time to give that light back, to join together and do that work. And at SAGE, we are so proud to be doing that work with each and every one of you. So thank you so much. And now I want to introduce really a very special speaker tonight. I talked a little bit about the training that we are doing here in Chicago and across the country, but really there's no better way to understand just what a difference that training makes than to hear about it from somebody who's right there on the front lines providing that training. And so I want to introduce one of our Sage Care trainers, Jack Mumble.
Good evening, everyone. How are we? How are we? All right. If you still have money in your wallet, it won't be my fault. It is my honor to be here. I have been a Sage Care trainer for approximately a year. I'm the founder of a company called The Care Plan. We're the only care navigation company in the country that is geared towards LGBTQ populations. So for me, when I started the business 3 years ago, it was a labor of love. I wanted to be really innovative about how our aging can look different than the traditional pathways to aging. How we can utilize strategies and resources that we know work for us, like retiring together as a family, communal living, family of choice, really holding on to those values that have gotten many of us through our younger years, through the end of our lives, so that we can have the aging that we deserve. So that was my passion when I first started. And then I started talking to nursing homes. And what I found out was that I was alone. It really struck home for me how the stigma and discrimination that we hear about and that SAGE does such a wonderful job of raising awareness about on a national level, how that is really happening here in Chicago. I started out my career as a certified nursing assistant, working in nursing homes. I was a caregiving agency administrator before becoming an entrepreneur. So I suspected that there weren't enough services for our elders. And again, I found that to be true. When I would speak to nursing home administrators here, I kid you not, about 1/3 of the time, people said, well, what does LGBT stand for? And I was like, I didn't realize I was in that much of a bubble. And then they would say, well, there's nobody here that's LGBT. Right? I beg to differ. But what I realize now is that the Sage Care training it's not a nice to, it's a have to. As Michael mentioned, there's thousands of nursing homes across the country that our people will end up in that have no access to training. So when I started my business, I said, well, I have no need to reinvent the wheel. Let me see what Sage is doing and get on their list. And then, because they're so good at what they do, I waited about a year and then became a Sage trainer. They vetted me properly. And since that time, I've had the opportunity to really dive deep with nursing homes, with healthcare providers as a Sage trainer to help them understand what our older adults are going through. right? We know that our community is not one story. We know there's not one narrative, but that's oftentimes how it appears from the outside. So tonight, I would just encourage you to consider diving deep into those wallets and into those checkbooks, because as a business owner, I'm blessed. My sustainability rests on my clients. That's not the case for Sage. It can't happen without you. There have been 3 agencies or organizations credentialed here in Chicago. Do we want to take a guess how many nursing homes there are in this city? Go ahead. 337. The work is not over, it has just begun. So thank you for having me, thank you for creating this training, and let's all make sure this continues.
Good evening, I'm Phil Lumpkin, one of the Chicago board members, and I have the honor of presenting the honorary award to Merrill Lynch Bank of America. I won't spend a lot of time going through some of the things that have been mentioned, but Bank of America Merrill Lynch has been a pioneer since the early days with the LGBT movement in forming a group of people to work with LGBT issues around the country. And in that way, they partnered with Sage and have done many things throughout the country, and we're here to recognize that tonight as their role continues to expand, not only with some of the elder financial issues that Merrill Lynch has been very, very kind to help us with, including here in Chicago. We've had several opportunities to work and partner with Merrill Lynch where they have helped seniors navigate through some of the financial issues that growing older presents. They've also worked with us on many of the care areas, and so I have the great honor of presenting to Bill Moran our honorary award for all of the work that Merrill Lynch Bank of America has done. So, Bill. This is the hardest part of it. I'd like to present this to you. Oh.
Thanks.
Wow. What an honor. So good news for you all is that I think that my comment should be kind of in correlation to my height, so it's going to be really short. But this truly is an honor, and I cannot even tell you how humbling this is. We do what we do because we have advisors around the community that want to make sure that we're taking care of clients and prospects and things like that. But we get excited. I mean, when you get the opportunity to work with an organization like Sage, and I think that we've been working now, Michael, I think 10 plus years, if I'm not mistaken, that we've been able to partner with you guys. I would love for there to be a day when there's no longer a need for Sage. It's not going to happen, guys. It's always going to be work. And you guys will always be there to do that work. And thank God you'll always be there to do that work. And as long as I'm around, I will make sure that we are around to help you guys in doing that work. So as I say, so I'm the national, it's a mouthful, I'm the national director of our national LGBT financial services team. I call that my day job. It's not my day job. And with that job, I do get to travel the country, and I get to see what's going on in so many different communities. And with it, whether it be with talking about what Sage is doing or some of our other national partners are doing, Chicago's a really special place in the country. I'm not sure how much you people realize this. This is this is a community that unites and just gets amazing things done. I'll be in many, many different markets, and we'll be talking about something that somebody wants to do, and gosh, 8 out of 10 times somebody will say, well, you know, they did this in Chicago. Maybe we should try that. And sure enough, they do, and it works, and everybody's happy for it. So kudos to you all. You guys are pretty fantastic in doing so. So again, on behalf of my team here in Chicago, our national team, thank you to the staff, the board, and especially you guys who are the major donors that make this happen, because it is going to make the world better for all of us. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Bill, and it's nice to be among short people, but we're not as short as the little people, you know, and Munchkins and the District Office. But I'm Roy Wesley, and I'm one of the SAGE National Board members. And I began volunteering for SAGE 8 years ago here in Chicago at the Center on Halsted. And I was privileged to join the board 3 years ago. And it's my so-called honor to talk to you about something that no one wants to hear. So I'll be brief and to the point. I hope you were inspired by our executive director, Michael, and about the importance of SAGE's work to us. And I hope that you see how invisible we are and what the needs are as described by Jacqueline Boyd, who did a brilliant job and did part of my work for me. Thank you, Jacqueline. But the continuance of our work depends on people like you and audiences all across the country who are willing to put their hearts and minds and wallets where they see the need. And if you see a need tonight, I invite you to join my husband Mark, who's over there, and me in our challenge to you. Our gift to SAGE this evening is $2,000, and I'd like to see you match that from this group this evening. It's a lot to ask of you on a short notice, but I know that some of you will rise to the occasion and probably exceed that challenge. So if there's anybody here who would be willing to participate in that challenge, please raise your hand. Yay! Thank you. And for those of you who didn't and are too shy to raise your hand, I invite you to do that anyway and to offer yourself as a volunteer to our Chicago SAGE. And so we have people who will come around and either give you a pledge form, or if you don't want to pledge, to at least volunteer for the events that will be coming up here in Chicago. We would deeply appreciate any sort of help and involvement that you can give SAGE Chicago in this next year until we have our next events. But we're looking forward to seeing all of you participate and be with us in the march forward on behalf of our elders. Thank you very much.